Hello, everybody. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us this Sunday for our Colorado Modular Synth Society meetup. I'm here with my co-host. I did it right. Like I think, yeah.
That's right.
Monosine, Christoph. Yeah, thank you so much for joining us. We have a really interesting show today. We're going to be talking about creativity with your modular synth, and also just as an artist, honestly. This conversation is kind of came by actually by something that me and Christoph have been doing. Me and Christoph have been doing these new interview series called Beyond the Patch. And we wanted to kind of take a step back from being so technical and kind of talk a little bit about, the process and the journey an artist takes getting into modular. So that's kind of like where this started from when I came up with the idea for the show, I guess a couple of months ago to do this. And that's sort of why I reached out to the people I did, because I find that they're really creative in so many different ways, not only technically, but artistically. And I think that's really want to touch on that. But I do recognize this is about modular synths, so we do want to talk a little bit about some of the modules and the technical aspects as well that also kind of help us be creative. So I've broken this meetup in two parts. The first part, we're kind of going to talk a little bit about just what it takes to stay creative and be creative in as an artist, a musical artist. And then the second half, we'll kind of talk a little bit more about the technical stuff. Related to more modular synth stuff, as far as like some of those modules, or is there a workflow, or is there studio kind of setups that are technically more useful for being creative. In between that, we're going to have a performance by Tsk Tsk out of Colorado. So that's going to be really awesome to check out. So please join the live chat, ask any questions, share any thoughts you may have, and we can put it up to the panel. But thank you again for joining us so much. We really appreciate it. Throughout the show, we'll be bringing up a few different topics, but of course, please use the live chat to kind of jump in there and ask something. Maybe we can pull it in for sure. So let's get started. And let me pull in the panel here. All right, everybody's coming in. Here we go. Awesome. Thank you, everybody, for joining. This is the get creative with your modular synth. Stay creative with your modular synth. I don't know. There's a probably different ways I can say that, but this is our panel, and I'm gonna let everybody introduce themselves, and then they're gonna answer the question, what aspect of their workspace/studio is special or unique that helps them stay creative. So Sonia, I'll let you go first.
Yeah, hi, my name is Sanya. I am a musician of sorts, and I guess to answer the question, my studio used to be in the spare bedroom, but I moved it out into the living room because the light is much better, and now the best part is the constant daylight that comes streaming in, because I don't like working in the dark.
Nice. Okay, Scott, introduce
Hey,
yourself.
everybody. Yep. Hey, everybody. I'm Scott Matoyer. I think the best part of my studio right now is location. Our house, we had to go like full pandemic mode, so everyone's working remote. I lost my dedicated workspace, and that means I had to kind of pick everything up and move it into the kitchen, dining room. So basically, it's like right there now, fully accessible. I got to walk by it like every time I go to the bathroom or whatever. But it makes it really easy to kind of dive in and get stuff done. So
That's cool.
yeah.
Awesome. Go ahead, Travarsi. Introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your studio.
Hey, I'm Travarsi, and I'm a live performer and producer, educator. And for my studio space, Sonia, I agree with you, is the openness. I have like a table there, and even though sometimes I think windows could be a downside in the studio, I actually like to open up all the windows and the doors and let all the fresh air kind of come in. And I find that inspiring.
Awesome. Yeah, that's two for light. All right. Heidi, tell us a little bit about yourself and what aspect of your studio helps you stay creative.
Hi everyone, my name's Heidi. I go by Bachelor in terms of my modular music. And what part of my studio keeps me creative? A few months ago, I bought myself an office chair, and just being able to raise my sitting height to level with my 2-tier keyboard stand, which is where I put my modular cases, has been like a game changer, really. Like, because before it's been too low and I had a cable hanger on the wall that I could never reach. And now that my chair is higher, like it just sort of made everything more pleasurable to engage with.
That's cool. Yeah, yeah. I'm also in a standing situation, and I love it. Like I can't sit down and work. So that's cool. Right on. Awesome. Christoph, let's you can answer this one too.
Yeah. Yeah, hi, I'm Manasi and Christoph. For my studio, it's accessibility. I have a lot of little gadgets and stuff, and just I bought a bunch of shelves and put them over here. So I'm on shelves now, it's not just laying around everywhere. But having everything set up that it's accessible. So the mixer's right here, and then the module over here, the computer right there, so that I don't have to kind of move around a lot and change things and have things set up, so I can just sit down and just do music right there instead of spending a whole time on setup.
That's awesome. Yeah, I feel like a lot of people have seen my setup just from watching the show, so you probably already get a feel for all the wood vibe I got going.
Paneling.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe not. Maybe but I think for me, the thing that I really like is that it's also like it's open space. I don't have any walls around here, so whenever I'm downstairs, I always see it. Someone once told me that about like people who play guitar, or a friend of mine who plays guitar said that was something they learned, that they don't, if they put their guitar in the case, they never will play with it. So I just always thought that was interesting to always kind of keep your stuff out. So just being able to see it is kind of like the aspect I think that I like about it. But that's interesting, seriously, yeah. But it is cool. I wish I did have light. I wish I had more plants. I mean, I make jokes about plants all the time, but I really wish I could have more plants. But I'm in the basement, so I don't have that for sure. Yeah, that's a good one. Awesome. So, I want to get a little started about this creativity in general, because I think that everyone here is pretty busy with other things. Either just more music stuff or just regular life. And I know I see this a lot in the other forums, people talking about just trying to manage the whole balance of things. So my question to you all, and everyone can just kind of jump in whenever they want, is do any of you plan your week or your schedule so that you have the bandwidth? Do you do any kind of scheduling so that you give yourself that time to be creative, or are you using any kind of cues or schedules or prompts to be creative? How are you all managing that?
I can start. I don't have a job, so I just hang out at home all day. And so being creative as a result has to be my main job. I don't have a schedule, I guess, but a lot of the time I have performances or mixes due, so it kind of forces me to get on and play something, even if I may not want to. I don't know, because I have so much time, I don't want to waste it, so I try to play a little bit every now and then, but I don't want to force things too much because then it just stops being fun. I think that's why I started expanding to other instruments beyond just the modular synth, because I was I want to not feel so stuck, I guess. But because being creative is a huge part of my life, I always just try to do something creative every day, whether that's writing or painting a picture or something. I try not to be so limited in doing only one thing musically, but try to expand creativity to other ways. Because that activates your brain in different ways too. I don't want to just be every day modular synth for 10 minutes, I want to have fun with it all the time. I used to have a schedule like that. Like I used to be like every day modular synth for at least 30 minutes, and then it just stopped being fun and it started feeling like homework, and then I didn't touch it for like 3 months after it because I was like, this is not a good time. So I guess something that helps me is having a colossal amount of time at my disposal, and then just the general desire to pursue self-expression in whatever medium it is. Like I always feel like I have something to say. I always just try to find a new way to say it, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, it does. Anybody else making a schedule and not using a schedule?
Yeah, I mean, I pretty much have like the exact opposite problem as far as like, having sort of bandwidth to work on this stuff, because we've got like a kindergartner running around here, and I've got like the full-time job. My wife is working full-time remotely from the house. So what's worked out really well for me, and I think a few other people mentioned it, was just ensuring that like everything is like immediately accessible, because making music and like being creative for me is like kind of purely a white space activity right now. So really being able to like immediately dive in on it when I get like 10 minutes or 5 minutes, or like, the kids like doing a bathroom break or between classes or something like that, is super, super important. And I mean, if I didn't have everything sort of arranged in such a way that I could immediately get into it and just be actually producing something within just like 30 seconds, I would never be making anything. So just having that accessibility is super important to me right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I get that. I'm right in the boat there. I have 2 kids and a full-time job and trying to make that space, which also is difficult because I know there's other ways of everybody wants to unwind here and everybody else wants to hang out with me too, believe it or not. So yeah, trying to also carve out that space of like when no one else needs me, or I can kind of break away. I have tried the scheduling thing, and I have tried to not schedule it, and honestly, I have mixed results either way. But I think that's part of the case for some of us. So it's always good to hear. What about you, Travarsi? I know you got a lot going on all the time. How do you do all that?
I basically have like a calendar and then a schedule, a little bit to what Sonia was saying, like with gigs or performances that are due or videos. That kind of keeps me in check, like keeps me on a schedule. And I use like a little book that I write in every day, the night for what I need to do the next day to kind of keep me on task. And because mainly I'm doing this all from home and working from home on all of this, I get up in the morning and I approach it. My initial approach is like a job, but I don't feel like, oh, it's a job in a bad way. You know what I mean? Like I get up early. I take the schedule pretty seriously in that sense. Like, but otherwise, I stay like pretty. I stay in the studio. I would say at least like 8 hours a day doing various things, whether it be preparing for videos, preparing for the Patreon stuff, or beta testing things, or shows. Like, but I have to keep kind of on that schedule so I don't fall behind.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so let's go backwards in time real quick with Travarsi. So before you getting booked to do shows as much or doing demos and stuff like that, was it like that too? Were you also kind of spending a lot of time in the studio, or or did all those kind of gigs and appointments and stuff like that, did that start to make you forced to kind of spend more time in the studio?
You mean over just this past year in the pandemic, or just in
Oh,
general?
just in
Like,
general. I know you for one, I know for sure, like you have your classes and you do a lot of the SoCal stuff as well. So was it always like that, or is that something that's kind of evolved?
I think
Your
it's evolved. It just kind of it started out before I worked on music and videos and things like that as a full time approach. I did work in law, and then I slowly kind of moved away from that and contracting and moved into contracting, and then that way I was able to take contracts based upon my what I felt I wanted to be available to do that, as opposed to like more music projects. And so it's just kind of morphed more so into music, and things around music, meaning like the videos, tutorials, and things of that nature. But I think it's just kind of progressed. The schedules kind of, and then I I have the online shows too, like the Faders Up and things like that. That I focus on. But I feel like for the things that I have to do, like in terms of like beta testing or what have you, I'll focus on that stuff like during the day. And then if it's like if I have to prepare for like a show or something, like then I focus on that like later in the day, like toward the evening, because I am a night person, like a night owl, I guess, if I have to say, more than a morning person. So I feel like that's like I use that time to kind of transition for those sort of performances, I guess, as opposed to yeah. Because then it's like it's hard. I mean, I don't know if, and like Sonia, maybe because you're saying that you work from home and you work on things, like sometimes like you don't want to say it's like a job, but it's like it is something you have to do. So it's like you have to sort of approach it like, yeah, like it's a job, a task, versus like maybe like a performance where it's like this thing is for you. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know if you have that experience, but
Yeah, I definitely like I'm very much like you, I think, in a sense, because every day I also write out all my tasks for the next day. So like even though I like don't have a job, I still have a lot of things to do, whether that be like performances due, like I still DJ and I have residency, so I have mixes that I have to do, and that involves like looking for music and like dedicating a lot of time to that. So there's still things that I have to do, and I guess the approach of like this is a task that must be done helps me take it seriously, as opposed to just like, oh, whatever, like I don't have a job, it's not that serious, because it is serious, because like even though it's not a traditional job, it's still my job, like it's still how I make my money, right?
Right, totally.
Word. Heidi, how about you? How do you set up time to be creative?
Well, at the moment, I mean, I think since the last year or so, I've actually been very lucky that I do have a full-time job, but part of my job is to do research on modular synths and musical instruments, and to actually learn a bunch of new things and get paid for doing that. So that definitely keeps me creative. And I'm not someone who is very disciplined, so I don't set schedules. I also perform acoustic music. I play Japanese folk music, so I play bamboo flutes and stuff. And so I have other projects that take me away from the electronic stuff, from the modular stuff, but then I'm still able to engage creatively and musically. So, I have this project coming up, filming with 4 other traditional musicians, female traditional musicians, and we're doing like a documentary of this fusion ensemble. And so part of our work is to each musician has to write an arrangement for the whole group to perform. And so I feel really lucky that I'm able to I have creative outlets in different ways, like through my job and also through different musical projects, which I think helps me stay fresh when I go back to the modular. Again, I'm someone that needs to just jump around. I really envy, folks like Travarsi and Sonia who does music full time. And for me, it's really hard to stay that prolific. So I really envy people who are really prolific. I just need to bounce on and off. It kind of comes in waves. I don't know if other, some of you feel that way. I kind of need to, like, once I have a burst of creativity, I need to recharge. I can't really stay super creative all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think recharging is real. I mean, for sure. Yeah, Scott, I know you do all kinds of stuff, and not only Are you doing music, but you're also doing like performance stuff and technical stuff. So do you find you have to recharge a lot, or?
Yeah, I mean, completely. That totally resonates with me. And what's so sort of, I saw like I think an Instagram post or something the other day that kind of drove this home. But the sort of social media aspect of all of this that we're working on, like demands this sort of constant output, and it's to kind of stay relevant or to stay like gathering followers and stuff like that, and it just makes it like very draining to really want to keep up with that. And I mean, I tried for a very long time. I think just recently, probably in like the last 6 months or so, I've scaled a lot of that back and just kind of focused on kind of the quality rather than the quantity of like kind of getting these posts out regularly. And I mean, just for my personal sort of mental space, I needed to do that. But it's helped a lot. But yeah, I absolutely need recharge periods. And I mean, I guess just because I'm recharging doesn't mean I'm not necessarily working, So another thing that I sort of try and do is during those recharge periods, I'm collecting ideas, and I'm like trying to like maintain a sort of task list of, okay, like when I do kick in, like, a week from now or 2 weeks from now, I have sort of like a clear list of these are the things I'm going to be jumping on and working on. And I find that helps a lot too. But yeah, the recharge is absolutely real.
Yeah. Yeah. So, that's something that's interesting. When you're talking about not when you're recharging, you're still kind of working in the back of your mind, right? You're still thinking about it, or some of us maybe. So I found that when I'm doing that, sometimes I'll be reading a book or watching a film or listening to like other music, or sometimes literally just like looking at art or something, and I get like an inspiration, and I kind of want to write music for that or about that or kind of stems from that. I mean, I tried. I mean, even the news is obviously like driving me to want to like do a lot of different stuff right now. But is it so? Are there some go-to artists or books or other mediums that kind of inspire you all?
Oh, I do want to say, like, definitely the cross disciplinary engagement really helps with the inspiration and creativities, like movies or yeah, like listening to different styles of music. Like for me, I actually find that I get more inspiration for working on the modular synth from listening to like folk music and the organic, nature of the styles and forms of different kinds of folk music, and then apply that to the modular synth and actually listening to modular synth music, that sort of thing. So yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. That's super cool. That's super cool. Anybody else have being inspired by artists or other musics or other disciplines?
I read this book called Experimental Music Since 1960 by Jenny Gottschalk, I think. I have it here. And I read it like a few months ago, but it's been just on my mind ever since. Like, because she uses a lot of case studies. I guess I don't know if it's backwards, but
That's good.
it's
That's
this
good.
book.
Yeah.
And I don't know, ever since I read it, I've just been thinking about a lot of the examples she used, where like there was one where like a guy just like warped a record, like a vinyl record, a bunch of times and like sent it around, and then he like beat it up, and then he was like, now we're listening to it. I don't know, like all these like weird sound experiments and like different things that you could do with sound, and like different tools that you could use to obtain sound, and different like live art installations of full like soundscapes, I guess. And ever since I read it, I've been really thinking about it. And partly like that's kind of always been in the back of my head for a few months of like something that inspires me. So instead of like just always playing modular synth, sometimes I'm like, let me do something else. Let me like use this pen and like a cup. And like I've always been very attracted to toys. So like, prior to COVID, I used to like go hang out at like Toys R Us because I like the sounds that children's toys make. There's just like cool stuff there.
Yeah, totally.
I really like it, and I find like quite a bit of inspiration, I guess, out of like unconventional objects, and even more inspiration watching artists using like non-musical objects as musical objects. It's a lot of fun for me.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Yeah, I should. I don't know if you've seen him before. There's a guy named OK House Cat, and he does that. He like circuit bends like kids' toys, And it's awesome because I sometimes I see my kids' toys back here in the corner. I'm like, oh, that's he's using that one, and it's making that little cat piano sound ridiculously cool. No, I dig that. No, and I think that's actually you know, a tip for somebody out there to read some of the books written about music. It is one of those things I felt like, weirdly enough, as much as I love reading, I kind of just didn't take much. I just didn't do it at first. Maybe I was just worried that they would like over influence me, whatever that means. But once I started to read books about music, it was the opposite. I felt like kind of what you're saying, Sonia. Like a new idea comes around, and you're like, "That's cool. What's my idea? You know, is it like you said, like is it a pen in a cup? You know, maybe it is." Um, for me, it was weirdly enough. I read a book by David Byrne, and then I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna get the 24. I'm gonna go buy a multi-track. I mean, he did it. I'm gonna do it and see what I would do, so I can dig it." Uh, how about you, Scott? What's kind of some inspiration for what you're working on?
Yeah, I mean, I stay away from like listening to a whole lot of music, honestly, just because it's like so good, and I just feel like I can't, I
Yeah.
can't even begin to put anything together that's going to meet that level, right? So, what I do a lot of though recently, I love microcontrollers and just sort of the concept of like converting non-musical data into musical data to create music, right? And I'll browse like Adafruit or AliExpress and stuff like that, just kind of going through, or American Science and Surplus is another great site. Just going through the types of stuff that they have out there selling, but looking at it in kind of an alternative musical context and just see like what can I come up with, right? And I found a few sort of gems like that. So that's kind of one of my favorite things to do, just poke around on some of these sort of surplus sites and just or electronic component sites and just see what's out there that I hadn't seen before that I can make something creative with.
That's awesome. Yeah, because of you, Scott, I started to follow some of those Adafruit. I think that's what is it when you yeah, and I already had stumbled on Hackaday, and I started looking at those different sites, and I subscribed to them, even
Yeah.
though I don't solder or hack or anything like that. Um, but I do find some inspiration by seeing what people are designing and the beautiful like especially the really beautiful things people do with like clocks. I just love seeing people create clocks out of weird things, and it's just super cool, and I'm always wanting to like get one built from like my system. uh,
Yeah.
but it's fun. Yeah, I dig that.
I
Traversier.
like.
Oh, go ahead.
No,
Oh,
I was just gonna say I like thrift stores. I think thrift stores are incredibly inspiring to go and pick up some. I just picked up an old. You can see it over there. It's like a 1978 Radio Shack boombox,
Awesome.
and it has VU meters on it. It records in stereo, so it has two condenser mics on it.
Whoa.
And so what I'm planning to do is just put it somewhere and I have a big open basement here. Just put it somewhere and then play something over here and just record it in stereo
Yeah.
to a tape.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And
That's
so that
cool.
kind of stuff is really really inspiring to me.
That's awesome. Were you inspired from our last show about recording in boom
Yeah.
boxes?
That's right. That's right.
So Trafarsi, what's inspiring you? Is it all the Marvel comic movies? I don't know why I said that. So random thing.
yeah, I don't know.
Just teasing you.
No, it's fine. I think for me, like I like to I'll listen to music, but listen to genres that I'm not even making music in,
Hmm.
just to get some inspiration from that, like, and just to kind of just deep listen, I guess, like just to see what elements, what they're using, what instruments, and just the progression, and just really take time to like, yeah, just to try to listen to all the details. And then I think of like how that helps me, because then I start to think of how, like, when I hear something I like, how I can incorporate that or something along those lines in something that I'm making. And I do, and then if I'm preparing for like if I have like a set, like if I have to play a live performance, but more like a DJ style where it's like, I'm playing for an hour of like a hybrid or live, I'll listen to some of my favorite DJs, like, non-compliant and like, or like some of my favorite producers, like Risk is a good friend of mine. And like, I'll listen to some of his music and just to kind of get me in that mindset of like, of getting into that groove of preparing a set to play like that. So
Yeah,
yeah.
that's cool.
Mhm.
That's cool. I kind of have a mix of both of both you and Monoscene, because I used to love going thrift store shopping for records. I used to just go down there and just find records back when I used to DJ and digging in the crates and trying to look for samples. But I would, just like a lot of people, I think you pick up a bunch of cheap records because the cover looks cool and it's only like 50 cents or something. And then you bring it home and you listen to it, and sometimes you're like, what is this? Like, what? I don't even know what this is. Like, some crazy, Polish folk band someone brought, like, it over, and it ended up in a thrift store. And just the idea of that, of like that whole like journey of how this record got here, and whatever, you can kind of trip out on that, and you really kind of dig into it. I used to make mixtapes of just those strange finds, and I wouldn't put them out or anything, but I would just think, just so I can listen to them and like, oh, cool, I'm gonna check out all those weird records I listened to at once. Um, yeah, it's fun. Thrift stores are definitely fun. Music's definitely fun. I hear you, Scott. Though sometimes I also don't want to like listen to too much. There's some, especially some people in our group, I listen to it and I'm like, that's cool. I'm not gonna put out my record now. This is, I don't want to follow that for sure. But yeah, it's a tough one. That's cool. Um, yeah, so there's inspiration, and then the other thing I kind of want to talk about a little bit is so now you're inspired, you got your workspace set up, you're ready to kind of go, but something that I think someone mentioned earlier, sometimes it's you kind of have to get into that flow state, you have to kind of get into that mood, and maybe that comes easy, maybe that doesn't, but there's also sometimes it doesn't. So I think it'd be kind of fun to kind of share some tips or things you've learned to kind of keep yourself creative when that comes, or just in general to just kind of help you just get up and go and get into that flow state. So let's start with you, Heidi. What do you do? How do you get into your flow state? Or
How do I get into my flow state? I think one thing that's important to me is to sometime just to, Scott mentioned about pulling back from social media and pulling back from what you see. And I think that which is something that I've done recently as well. And I think for me, what I value more and more is actually, staying a bit reclusive, right? And just there's so many ideas out there, everyone's sharing, which is great, which is completely essential. But I feel sometimes for me, and also sometimes seeing a lot of stuff out there that might be a little like derivative because everyone's like, oh, I don't know what to do. Like, what can I do? And then everyone's drawing from someone else. So I think there needs to be a balance between seeking resources for inspiration, but also, just looking inside and finding what it is in yourself that's that's original to you, that's your voice. I also feel like really, and Sonia, and we recently talked about this as well, about experimenting, right? To not feel like you need to follow any sort of procedure or rule, what's the right way to do something, what's the right way to use a module, what's the right way to, how to, reading manuals and stuff is essential as well. But again, really just thinking outside of what other people tell you, how things should be used. So I really value and encourage Yeah, folks who encourage experimentation. Just the idea of playing, just play, play without expectations, play without, with no expectations. Don't set any goals, which is really hard. Like I find it really hard as well. I have patching sessions where I really get frustrated because I'm like, okay, I got this thing going, and it's nothing that I would ever record or put out there. But you also have to just sit in those moments as well. And so I think it's always about balance and about finding pushing through those moments of frustration and believing that this too shall pass. At some point, you do it enough, you spend enough time, something's going to come out. So yeah.
One of the things that one of the reasons why I have you all on here is because I feel like you all are really good about playing without a safety net. That you're okay to let it go and go into different areas on the sonic palette and just go there. Not to say there's anything wrong if you're watching and you don't like that and you want to stick to certain strong structures and certain tones. Because you're trying to achieve a certain sound, for certain genres. That's cool. I'm totally in. But it is really awesome I've seen you all perform, and I've seen you all definitely go into that spot, that realm of music where a lot of people are like, I don't know if I'm ready for that yet. I don't know if I can do that. So I think that's awesome. But also kind of, does you put a lot? I mean, it's a little daring, right? Because I know that it's tough, and in the back of your mind, you're thinking, oh, no one's gonna like this, so why should I put it out? But you do, and I think you're right. Like there's tough days to kind of deal with it, but it does work out, I think.
One thing I really miss is I really enjoy collaborations or I miss having people come to the studio and have that energy of just exchanging like a jam or information like that. I miss that a lot because I feel that I got a lot of inspiration from that, like working with people and just like because I feel like you learn something from everyone, and especially when you're in a collaboration like sorry you just you get to watch how they patch or how they approach something, and it's completely different from how I would approach it, or even if you're teaching somebody something, you're reaffirming that information and they're showing you something. Like I miss that, like having that experience in the studio for sure. And that definitely would give me a lot of inspiration too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. I was just, as I was listening to you, I was thinking.
No, that's cool.
Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean, it's definitely something that's real. Like, collaborations is something that also kind of just sparks a whole nother. And I mean, I've been in the flow state with somebody else, and that's like double whammy. It's like, wow, that's crazy cool. That's the whipped cream sundae, really. So, let's see. Awesome. Yeah.
The live shows in general.
Mm-hmm.
Gerald said that, we talk about Freak Boutique, the WMD Freak Boutique that happens every month, where we used to get together at a bar in Denver. And that was one of the most inspiring, events. And I think a lot of people feel that way because you saw 6 or 7 performers every month perform a 30-minute set. And there was a lot of different styles and a lot of different ways of doing things. And I always walked away, like others have said in the chat, always walked away inspired from that, because you really could get up close. And that's the thing about modular too. You can get up close. You can see, where does that cable go? How does it do that or she? And that, that's kind of really something that hopefully will come back when all of this kind of opens up again.
Yeah, totally. Agree. Yeah. yeah, Nathan Moody was talking about how he's kind of enjoying the streaming because you can even get closer uh, to people's systems and see or their different setups and stuff, which is true. It's kind of cool. I mean, it's not the exact same, but I hope it's supplementing some for sure. Uh, so s- uh, let's see. Did everybody answer? Oh no, everybody. So anybody else has some ideas about how to get in the flow state or how to get through that?
I just want to add on to what Heidi was saying. I mean, it's true. Like we did talk about this recently about this idea of like no expectations, which is something that I push a lot in my own like philosophy, I guess, and like approach to music making and just creativity in general. I don't think that you can like go into any creative session and be like, today I'm going to get into a flow state and I'm going to make stuff that you can't
Hmm.
make a flow state. You just fall into it. And I think that would be like the main takeaway is like to just go in with no expectations. I mean, Heidi is right. Like the element of play, like I have by my station this like little list of keywords, I guess, and there's play and curiosity and neutrality, and it's just about like approaching everything with a sense of like, oh, well, what if this is going to happen, and like not put any expectations on yourself. And if it doesn't work, then it doesn't work, and you can come back later today, or you can come back in 2 days. And I think it's just about knowing that like not every studio session is going to be productive, not every time you touch the instrument is going to be successful, and to accept that like you're a human being, you can't be making amazing music all the time, and it's just about having fun. Like you don't have to record everything, you know what I mean? Like you don't have to record everything, you don't have to put everything out, you don't even have to tell people that you went into the studio and played that day. You can just do it, and you don't have to tell people, and you can just have a good time with it, where it's just you and the machine and having a fun time with no one knowing, no expectations, just exploring the patch and seeing where it takes you. And if it doesn't work, then you can go and like have an ice cream and do something else. I think is just, I don't know, that's how I think about it. Like there's no, I try not to put any pressure around it, I guess, if that makes sense.
No, it totally does. Yeah, that's good. That's good. Yeah, and plus one for the ice
Definitely
cream.
ice cream.
Yeah, we're like, yeah,
Yeah.
let's go get ice cream.
I also find that sometimes there'd be days when I would record my jam session and I'm like, oh, this is terrible. I'll never listen to it again. And then, like a few weeks later, you're like going through some stuff and you're like, you play it back. I'm like,
Mhm.
wow, how did I do that? I was actually not as bad as I thought. So it kind of works both ways, right? You'd have like a day where you're just not in a good mood and you just record anyway. And it might not be as bad as you thought, or maybe you do something that you thought was the best thing ever. And you like listen to it and like, oh, that's the most boring thing I've ever done. So
Yeah,
works both
Yeah.
ways.
People are so hard on themselves. I think a lot of people like go in and they're like, I have to make like the best track ever. And it's like, it doesn't have to be so serious. Like you can just go and have fun with it. I think, I don't know, like working in creative fields, like I talk to a lot of people and there's so much pressure and seriousness around this. It's like, why did you start doing this in the first place? You know what I mean? Like it wasn't so hard when you first started. So I guess like try to put yourself back in that mind frame and be like, I was having fun before. How can I keep having fun?
yeah, no, that's a really good point. Yeah, I'm trying to tap into those early days of exploration for sure. When it was, yeah, when you were just happy just to get the sine wave to come through the VCA, and you're like, sweet, it's
Yeah.
working. That is
I mean,
cool. Just wibble it around, and then you're like, that was so much fun. You know?
exactly. I'm a big like fun lover. I love to have fun. It's a big like I don't know, I feel like I've constructed my whole life around having as much fun as possible, and I try to like I guess inject that into everything that I do.
That's awesome.
I think
No,
that's great advice and good recommendation for people. Yeah, fun is key.
yeah, fun's good. Yeah, fun's totally good. I mean, yeah, and I totally hear you. Like I also, in fact, I'm gonna, I stumbled across something from 2018, and it just so happened to, for some reason, download on my phone the other day. I didn't even know I did it. I got in the car, and my car, like the Bluetooth kicked on or whatever, and it started playing those tracks, and I was like, well, what station am I on? Like, what is this? Like, this is so like familiar, but also like I don't recognize it, and then I looked at, and it's like sure enough, it had like all my track titles on there, but it wasn't like track titles. It was like the date of whatever the title was. And it's like, oh snap, I totally forgot about this, and I know for a fact that when I recorded that, I was like garbage, and just whatever, and just like walked away from it. Luckily, I just didn't hit delete on it because yeah, what was it, 2 years, 3 years later, I'm like, dang, this sounds good. This sounds good. And it might be because what you're saying, I was having fun, I was doing it, but I was, whatever. I wasn't worried about it becoming an album or anything like that. And now I listen to it and I'm like, oh, I don't make stuff like that anymore. It sounds so cool. Yeah. So, um, yeah. So those are thanks for all for sharing all that. I think that's really it's really good. Anybody else have anything else to kind of share? I think it's a good point about like falling into a flow state instead of like making it happen. But is there any advice you give for people who say I just don't those don't I just can't make it happen or feel frustrated, kind of a writer's block, I guess.
Me again, I guess, because I just love to talk so much.
You and me both.
I know I'm constantly like, "Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to my channel." I don't know. I try not to like give advice, especially because I'm so bad at like taking my own. But the main thing is, I don't know. I think, and I try to apply this in my own life too. But like, just free yourself of expectation, but also free yourself of your own judgment. I know it's very easy to like be in the studio, be in the session, even if you're like totally alone, and be like, "This sucks. I'm the worst." Like, really try to overcome that and just like stop thinking it, or write like nice things on post-its and put them above your setup, because it really does work. It's nice to hear and feel positive things, I think, hopefully, to everyone. And I think, I don't know, just liberate yourself, you know what I mean? Like, stop thinking about like, oh, are people gonna like this, are people gonna hate it? Like, it doesn't matter, you know what I mean? Like, you're not making things for other people, you're making things as a representation of yourself. So if you can somehow overcome whatever this barrier is that's preventing you from having fun and being free and just purely experimenting, like, don't think, just go and do things.
Yeah,
Turn it off your brain, go turn on a patch and just have a good time.
I like that. That's good. That's good.
One other thing is find someone to share it with, but not necessarily the entire world and Instagram or whatever, but just can be a family member or something. I always find that I take stuff upstairs and I put it on the, at dinner or whatever, and then when my kids like it, then maybe it's actually pretty good. So that doesn't mean I'll put it out, but that gives me something, to be proud of, and that's always a good motivation to keep exploring in that direction.
Yeah.
They won't like my noise stuff, but that's okay too.
Yeah, that's a tremendous tip. Like my 6-year-old has, absolutely no filter when it comes to that stuff. And if there's like even the slightest bit that it's not good, she's going to let me know. Right. So, yeah, just, I'll show Instagram posts. I'm like, hey, this is pretty cool, huh? Not really, Dad. It's like, all right, that one goes in the archive. But, yeah.
Yeah, I will +3 that, I guess. Yeah, my kids are also really awesome. They give the nicest feedback. They say the nicest things about the things they like, and they're not mean about the things they don't like. But I know when I'm onto something when they really are like, I really like this one. It makes me think about birds, or it reminds me of whatever. And then I'm like, yes, that's awesome. Because if it's making you think of something, then that's like what I was trying to do, right? That's for me. It was. Yeah, kids are great for that. Yeah. So if anybody needs some kids to review their work, Scott and Christoph and I will set that up and do sessions, listening sessions.
The kid listening sessions.
Totally, yeah. With this, yeah, and yeah, we can totally just charge by the ice cream. So yeah, Scott, sorry, I know you dropped off for a second. I was just starting up a new business with our kids reviewing tracks for people.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Payment is ice cream, he said.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It'd be
Oh, yeah.
awesome. Yeah, exactly. Send dilly bars. Okay, cool. What's awesome. So we're gonna take a short break, but we're gonna have a musical guest. Let me just cue him up real quick. Let him know. See how if he's ready to play. Christoph, can you let Tisk Tisk know he's gonna come up? Yeah. So we're gonna have Tisk Tisk. Ah, my gosh, my mouth's dry. Tisk Tisk is going to play a short set for us, and then we're gonna come back and we're gonna get into some more of the technical things that kind of keep us creative. And so, if while we're listening to that, why don't you share in live chat some of the tips about keeping creative and any modules that make you feel creative right off the bat? That would be pretty cool. We'll look at those as we play. Um, and while we're waiting for Tisdisk to give us a green thumbs up to that we're going to he can play. I want to just really quickly say a few things about the Colorado Modular Synth Society. So next Friday, the April 2nd, we will be doing the Bandcamp listening party for modular synth artists. That starts at 9 p.m. and we play until about midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning. We just showcase a bunch of modular synth artists that are on Bandcamp for Bandcamp Friday. If you're interested in getting your music showcased on that, head over to our website and I have a little form there. So you can let us know about your music because I really want to make sure that we get the word out about your new album out or your album out and let other people know about that. So let me close that out. The other thing I just want to quickly say too is that thank you for watching and supporting and liking. We are selling these cool stickers. So go to our website and pick up some stickers. Some different manufacturers and folks have sent us stickers. So you never know what you might get. You might get a 4 or 5 stickers from other companies too. So they're like $3.50 and send whatever you want extra for donations that goes towards the stream. Awesome. So next up is our musical guest, Tsk Tsk. I'm going to pull everybody out and then we'll bring in Tsk Tsk. Let me pull him in. Sweet. So make sure. Oh, we have this has a lot of flashing lights, and so there's a warning for that. All right, let's go to Tisk Tisk.
No, my phone died. Yeah. Let's go for another like measure here.
Yeah.
Alright, I'm gonna pull my kick and stuff. We need a clap.
I think we're over 10 right now.
We're at 10.
We're at 312 right now. I think we started at 3. So maybe start to like pull it down, right? I like a new little thing coming in. It's like it's cool down. That way. Kill it!
Tsk, everyone.
Nice.
Tsk, your mic is on.
Oh no.
Oh, that's awesome. That was rad. Awesome set. I know we can hear the mic in the performance, but as a lot of us were commenting, that actually sounded really cool to get that background, which is kind of apropos, I guess, for this conversation about creativity. Like, what's going through your mind when you're making beats or making tunes, whatever. That's cool. Someone mentioned that they had left their mic on when they were recording once, and it picked up their whole set once. And I actually would love to hear what I sound like when I'm going into this for sure.
Yeah, I didn't realize I still had the mic on. We're like new to this platform, so yeah, it was just actually everything you guys just heard was just from a mic in the room and not the actual like input. Yeah.
It still sounded cool, but we'll do it on the next one at the end.
Yeah, we'll make sure we get that set. Again, we're like not used to this platform they're on right now. We knew about it like kind of like a short notice, so.
All good. Sweet. Do you want to keep your mic on still? I can hear my echo in there. Okay, cool. Awesome. Rad. Hey everybody, everyone's back. Yeah, the chat's loving it. I think that was cool. Right on. Yeah, so we'll have Tsk Tsk back on at the end of the show so that we can give another round and try that out one more time. But I think it's kind of cool, honestly, like to hear that background. It's kind of interesting. There was a good question. Who asked that question in our group? What's your favorite sound? Just like favorite sound. I thought that was a good question. What did you say? Oh, yeah. Yeah. What was yours? Did you tell us what yours was? What's your favorite sound?
Me?
Yeah.
Mine is basic. It's cat purr.
Oh, a cat purr. Nice.
Also, like lasers, like pew pew, like at the laser quest, at like laser tag. I like that a lot because I don't know. I like these like retro takes on like future sounds. Because like if you watch the Jetsons and stuff, they're like, "This is what your robot maid sounds like," and you're like, "Yeah, it is."
Totally. Yeah. I agree. Scott, wasn't yours also like the laser sounds?
You know, I said like anything that's like springy or springy. What I had in mind when I said that was like those little door stoppers at like the back of the door, like when you kind of box it, you know, it's just, that's an awesome sound.
Yeah, this is rad. I agree. And what was yours, Christoph? You just...
I said vinyl runouts. You know, every once in a while I let the record just, you know, run all the way through, and then it just sits there, and it just, there's always like an inherent rhythm to the vinyl runouts. So I actually sampled about like 20 or 30 records, just the runout part, and there's always something interesting to get from that.
Heidi, what's your favorite sound?
I said slightly dirty sine tones. I really like. There's the like pure sine tones, but just like a little bit of wave folding, a little bit of dirt on them. It's also because I play flute. I play bamboo flute, so it's actually a very similar sort of sound. And I've been experimenting, sort of combining those sounds together, and where you can't tell which is which.
Yeah.
So I like that. I also been listening to Elaine Radic recently, and her stuff's amazing, right? The drones and the slowly evolving tones. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I dig that.
Yeah, she's fantastic.
Oh, so good.
Dirty Signs. Love it. That's pretty fresh. And Travarsi, it's your 6 dogs barking at once. Isn't that your favorite sound?
No. Yeah. No. I like horns, but like through a reverb, like a big open horn.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like
I don't know.
like a ship horn? Like a
Oh,
brap?
yeah. That's what
Yeah.
I would use.
Or like the MIDI orchestral hit patch.
Or like with a big reverb on it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Something about that.
Yeah. I like the braps. I don't care how many times people use it, but I was like,
Yeah.
brah. I'm like, that sounds cool.
Yeah.
No, that's cool stuff.
With just the right amount of reverb on it.
Yeah, with just the right amount, right? It's always cool to get like a brass tone in your synth. It's like, ooh, that's cool. That's cool.
Yeah.
For sure. That's awesome. For sure. Yeah. So this is the second half of our conversation about being creative and staying creative with your modular synth. I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about some of the things in your modular that keep you creative. So, do any of you? I mean, would you say there's a certain module, or do you know of a module, or that seems like way more creative than others to you? Anybody? Christoph, you go first. What's your yeah.
What's that like useful?
I think one of the most used modules in my smaller setup is the 4MS SMR, the resonator. And it's really versatile. Like at first I thought, I read reviews and people didn't like it because it kind of sounded a little samey with the sine waves. Then you put a wave folder on that output and it sounds a lot nicer. But it can generate gates. It is an envelope follower. It can do all those kind of things. And sometimes I just use it as a clock generator, and just use the module in a way that it's not just making those kind of samey sounding, resonating filter out sound outputs. So that's really often the center of my patches.
Yeah, that's a good one for sure. That's a pretty wild module, but definitely kind of a lot of instant gratification. What about you, Jafarsi? Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I was asking for clarification actually, so it was fine. I'm really getting into using the performer more and like patching all the gates to all the different effects.
Yeah.
That's one, I guess. There's others, but that's the first one that kind of pops into my mind.
Yeah, totally. What about you, Heidi? Do you have a module or something that really kind of pops out?
I'm looking at what I have right now. There's a few. The Benjalin's great. I always, you can use it for all kinds of things as modulation or as audio source. Personally, my favorite mutable module ever is the Stages. I think it's one of the most brilliant designs ever. And I've been really getting into sample and holds these days. So anything that does that, I'm like kind of obsessed with it. I kind of get obsessive with certain functions.
Yeah.
Like for certain periods of time, like these days is like sample and holds, and then before it'd be like different kind of utility. So I think currently I'm into sampling holds and just seeing what I can do with it.
Yeah. Scott, anything?
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of weird. I'm really into like the menu divey type modules. Like a lot of people get kind of turned off by that, but they feel like sort of limitless. And like, I mean, we're talking about creativity, so there always feels like there's something in there for me to kind of tinker with, if I'm like running out of ideas and stuff like that. But Ornament and Crime is probably like, I mean, I use that on like every single patch. Like a lot of times, just when I don't have any ideas, I'll just pick like an app on that I haven't played with before, and try and build a patch around figuring that out. Yeah, I love the Ornament Crime.
Yeah, definitely love Ornament Crime. That's definitely one of my kind of go-tos when I'm don't know where I want to start. I'll just pick a random app and see what happens. Actually, just reading that manual will make me like think like, well, I never used that part, so maybe I should try
Really?
that. Yeah, and also the sequencers on there are like really strange, and that'll definitely you know break up the monotony for sure. What about you, Sonia?
I don't really have a big setup, so my favorite module is the one that I use most often, which is the Laquelic Iteritas. I feel like I'm saying it wrong. I talk about it all the time because it's like my go-to. I like a lot of like drone noisy stuff, and it makes beautiful sounds like that. It's very like up my alley. I bought mine used for a steal, so obviously very still attached to it because it was so cheap. But as a result of that, it didn't come with a manual, and I'm like, I don't know, I just don't read them anyway, so I've kind of just been figuring it out for like 3 years. And every day it still surprises me, so I think that's why I like it so much, because like every day I use it and I'm like, oh wow, I didn't know that I could do that. I have a very like I understand what it does, but I don't like understand it technically, so every time it's still like a new experience, I guess. Like it still remains to me a new module, even though like it's very clearly old. And I don't know, I like it a lot. I use it almost every time for my stuff, for sets and play and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I
The
think noise engineering modules and like they have that capacity to be extremely dynamic, which I like. Like I love the BIA too for that same reason. It's just I like to use it. I mean, for the obvious things like dirty kicks or something like that, but it's fun to just make it sound like a really like pretty lead or do something else with it where no one else expects that that's the BIA that is making those sounds. Yeah.
I have the Cursus Iteritas, and I love that it's one of the more mellower sounding noise engineering oscillators, but it does really good bass, and it just that's like one of my favorite of their oscillators. Yeah.
Yeah, they make good stuff.
I agree. Noise engineering is definitely one of those manufacturers that make stuff to really be, that you can dive in deep and get very experimental with for sure. Uh, Scott, I actually kind of starting to dig some of the menu divey stuff too. I don't know why. I guess maybe it's just from from the OC. I just in fact, Travarsi sending me the Dust of Time, which I think will have plenty of menus for. I didn't seem like too. I mean, I don't think anybody purposely tries to make a super heavy menu dive, but I get like the difference between having a Benjalin versus Dust of Times.
Totally. Yeah, I'm still finding stuff in like braids, for instance. Like just the other day I discovered you could like modulate the like any one of the parameters through like an envelope, which I didn't know before, right? But just by poking around the menu and coming across this stuff. So it's awesome. Yeah, it's like probably one of my favorite oscillator modules.
Yeah. That Elements is the Mutable Instruments. Elements is one of my like. I've had that thing since I've started, and I've never once like not really had it in the rack, because it's just so much in there. It's so deep. I love that. Um, I'm sure some people are still like hanging on to their rings for the same reason. Just you can just keep going with it. Really, it's pretty fun. Yeah, I love that stuff. I definitely feel like there's some people. I feel like there's some modules out there that are just going to like give and give and give. And Travis, you were kind of mentioning something about like utilities and stuff like that. But those are also like something that, like a Logic module really could be like the start of something great.
I'm the opposite though. I don't like a lot of menu divey modules.
I'm with you.
I'm the same. I don't want to read. Like,
Yeah.
I want to get in and play. I mean, there are a couple modules where I guess it's sort of menu divey, but actually not really. Like the simulator at first seemed like it would be, but it's pretty much everything is right there on the front of the panel. Like, so it's not divey in the sense of like the ER301, for example. Like, that to me, this is not fun for me personally. Like, I want to be able to touch the knobs and turn the knobs and not have to kind of dig into the menus in that aspect. But
yeah, it's the I don't know if you guys know about the new ADAC granular sampler, the huge one. Like,
yeah, that's cool.
I'm really interested in that because
too.
it's super hands-on. It for a granular sampler, it's got like all the controls. It's massive, like 45 HP. But as far as sampling goes, yeah, I would totally have that over any kind of menu diving. I understand the menu diving. I have the Westlake Performer sequencer.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's the most menu divey module I have. But I don't know. That particular module just connected with me. Yeah.
I feel that way too. Like I have my sequencer, I use the vector sequencer, and that's like, but I'm very committed to that sequencer. I love it. So that's like probably like the few exceptions to the rule,
True. Yeah. I mean, there's menu diving, and then there's like, trying to dive on like button combinations, right? That's the thing. That's where I can't really get into. Like, I can't remember all the button combinations and what chord am I in? I don't know, like whatever. Like there's different modules that are like that. Like I have no idea where I'm at.
You're
It's
trying
funny
to remember like what color does what.
yeah, what color it is. Like, right, does yellow mean? Yeah, exactly.
And what happens when you hold it for 5 seconds, or as opposed to like 3 seconds?
Yeah, where am I? I'm totally lost. Yeah, and I know that was like a thing, and then now I've seen more screens pop up for sure.
That's like the last thing you want to be thinking about when you're playing live somewhere, and especially if it's dark, is like, did you hold it long enough? Is it the right color? What if the strobes are hitting you? You're just, no.
Yeah, no.
Which also goes to the attest of why I use one color cable, like as opposed to color for, volts per octave versus I'd be like, what did I pick for volts per octave now?
Well, how do you, so that's actually, maybe we could talk a little bit about that, because there is some organization that goes into patching, and I do find it pretty creative that some people like yourself and others I've seen use the same color for their patching. And for me, I'm like, I would never be able to troubleshoot where something's wrong. I would be like, it's one of these 200 red cables, but you're saying that that's the opposite. You don't feel like that's helping you keep organized, or what is it doing? Or just it looks totally cool, which I definitely get.
The red, all red.
Yeah.
Well, I guess when I first started getting into modular, like obviously it was like confusing already, and then when I like would patch things, like it just looked like chaos, like with the different colors. I found it very distracting. So I found that I was just weeding away colors and like picking one color, and then when I was like, okay, I think it's better that I should just use one color. And then I was thinking, well, if I ever want to play like out and play like in a dark warehouse or something, I don't want to pick like a dark color like black or something like that. So I was like, okay, red is cool. Like it's not too bright, but it's bright enough that I can see what's going on. And that just and then I just kind of stuck with it. So yeah.
It's like your look, though, you kind of.
Yeah, it's become like part of my brand now, but it didn't start off like that. It was definitely like one color. And then even when I would use other colors, once I decided like I'm cool with that patch for the performance, I would swap out the color to red. Like, okay, this is like the final patch. Like, don't mess with that portion.
Okay.
And then now it's just like I have so many red cables. I'm like, screw it. Like I just use red cables. And then, except for HR Terror busted me once when I had to use like a purple tip top cable because it was, double stacked and super long. But that was the only reason why, because I needed a really long cable.
Yeah. Well, HR Terror is for you that don't know, he's on the scene.
He's
got
in the chat too. I
he's
think.
got hawk eyes.
Yeah.
There he is. There he is.
Exactly.
He sees me. Yeah,
He messaged me and circled it in the picture.
Oh, that's awesome.
I was like, yeah.
Well, I don't know if this has ever happened to you, but like I've watched performances and not seen the person playing, but I could see the case and I could see the cables. I'm like, I think I know who that is. I can guess by the cables and patches.
Yeah, it's like that one lavender cable. I think I used it when I played modular.
You gotta spray paint it. Yeah.
I should.
So speaking of aesthetics, Scott, you have this cube. I wonder if I can pull it up. I don't know if I try to explain the cube because I feel like correct me if I'm wrong. Definitely looks more aesthetic than useful than.
Oh yeah. Nobody's actually going out and using that thing. So yeah, that was more of like I guess you'd call it like an art sort of piece rather than like a performance piece. I did play with it a couple of times, just like virtually or whatever since the pandemic. But I mean, it was just for like modulation mostly, like actually getting in there and tinkering with it. Like you probably wouldn't be able to do anything like that live. But anyway, for anybody who's not like familiar with it, it's a cube, right? It's I think it's like, I want to say like 28 HP on a side. So there's 6 sides to it. And, each side obviously can hold like any number of modules up to the 28 HP. And then I've got like a tip top, like Uzus in there for power. So there's just like a flying bus cable in there, kind of all wadded up like a hairball or something like that everything's wired in. But it was super fun to kind of put together. A lot of challenges too, just because you got to consider like module depth. Because obviously, you can't put like a super deep module. So they all had to be like skiff size modules. Mm-hmm. And then even like where the power cables were oriented on the modules, they would jam in and you couldn't get another one in there. So like, the sort of selection and orientation of modules that you see in it, like on Instagram, is like literally all that I would be able to do with like what I have right now. But yeah, it was a fun little project.
Yeah, it's cool. And it could like dangle, then you can just patch it up. It's so cool.
Yeah. And then I put like an accelerometer in there. So there's like a little M5 Atom. It's like a microcontroller that has a built-in accelerometer, and it'll detect like orientation and movement and stuff like that, and send MIDI out, and then the MIDI comes back into a mutant brain and just kind of goes out throughout the rest of the thing. But yeah, it was fun. Awesome. Yeah.
You're always making cool things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're just trying to see what you can mash together and kind of get something interesting. That's really all that is. Just what stupid idea can I come up with today that I haven't seen anybody do? You know what I mean?
Nice. How did you come up with that scanner?
Like the barcode thing. I think we were talking about like thrift store finds and stuff like that. I think I was just like rummaging through like the storage area, like my work. I work at a university library or whatever. And we've got all kinds of old technology just like down in our storage basement. So I literally was just like looking through there trying to find something like, that I could somehow do something creative with music wise. And I found like a box of old barcode scanners and like mag stripe readers. Mm-hmm. So I took a couple home just to see what you could do with them. And they're pretty easy to interface with. So we'll make some MIDI out of this, right? Yeah.
Yeah, so people who haven't seen that yet, they're gonna have to please follow Scott's stuff because you have a lot of cool things on there for sure. But yeah,
I dropped the link in the chat.
Oh, yes, dropped the link.
Yes, very cool.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah,
appreciate that.
Yeah, you're able to make music with barcodes. Yeah, or they say Terno stuff, which I thought was dope. For sure.
Yeah. I don't know if we call it music, right? But
I do.
Right, makes sense.
Yeah. I've heard enough bird songs to know that, like, you know what, anything really goes. If that's considered song, anyhow, me and birds. That's pretty cool. What about one thing, because you're here, Scott, too. It's like, you also do a lot of visual stuff, and I feel like more and more of us are kind of taking that into account, especially now that we're not able to do any like live stuff and be on stage. So setting up the scene, setting up the camera, getting that whole shot, or just kind of incorporating the visual elements seem to, starting to come more forward for a lot more artists. Um, the last thing I saw you do, you had some, I don't even know how to explain it. It was like you were moving your hands, and then there was like lights and sound graphs or something going on. Um,
Yeah, so I mean that was just I had done some tinkering before with like motion tracking, like as far as or image recognition and motion tracking, as far as like identifying like hands in a webcam stream or a video stream, and then mapping the hand coordinates to like X and Y values, and then mapping those values to MIDI parameters. So I had done a post like that I don't know, a few months ago, but then the sort of the visuals was just like the addition of like After Effects and stuff like that, like just trying to make something sort of visually compelling out of this sort of musical data that I was creating, So with that particular post, really, it was kind of cheating, right? Because as soon as you start bringing in like After Effects and stuff like that, it's no longer something you could really do live, right? But it's just kind of a fun thing to get out there and just kind of inspire some more additional creativity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, that's cool. Well, I don't believe in cheating and this stuff, so I think that's pretty cool, for sure. Christoph, because you're here, I know when you set up your scene, when you got yours, you got your rocks, and I always like that. What's going through your mind when you're kind of setting up that shot? Why are you putting rocks in your shots?
It's a good question. I didn't have anything else. I don't know. So I started shooting videos upstairs on our hardwood floor, and that kind of had always a little bit of an aesthetic to it. But with my smaller 104.3 UKs, there was always a lot of room in a 16:9 frame. So I started just putting something else into the frame. Like I didn't have a plant, but I had a bunch of rocks that I collected in Alaska. And so they are meaningful to me in terms of, somebody called them in a stream once inspiration rocks, but it has something like that. I have about maybe 25 rocks, and they're in all shapes and sizes. And I collected them in Alaska, and they have a special meaning. And I always pick certain ones that I think would fit that particular video shot. And it has become kind of a thing that I just do, as adding those little rocks to my videos.
Yeah, that's cool.
And now I shoot the videos on this hardwood floor here that I put on my table, because it's frowned upon that I have my all my gear up in the living room and take up all that space. So now I can do that right here.
There it is. Nice. Cool. So sorry, kind of off topic there. I wanted to still talk about the technical stuff, but I had to know what's going on with those rocks. What about some some patching tips? What are some things that you found that are kind of like fun that, we were talking earlier about like those early experiments. Is there any kind of cool patching tips that you think are kind of fun and creative? Javarsi, you're always teaching kind of cool stuff. Is there a patch you show people when they first get into modular? They're like, whoa.
I'm a big fan of patching the parameters rhythmically, or with triggers, as opposed to just running LFO, and then patching them specifically in a way so when you hear the different parameters that they're have like a sub rhythm going on. So I really enjoy doing that.
Heidi, you worked at a store, or maybe you still do, right? And so you probably tell a lot of people first time they've seen modular, and you're like, what'd you do to kind of blow their minds?
Oh no, I mean most of them would be beginners, so I would basically just patch like a simple subtractive voice. When I worked at the store, I used to work at a store called Moog Audio, which is based in Montreal, and we had a store in Toronto. Yeah, most of the people who came in would be like, we'd have literally, a wall of modular, and so we'd have like tons and tons of modules on one side of the wall, and they'd be like, how does this all work? And I mean, the most basic thing I would like, we had the Metropolis, Intelligent Metropolis, and it was just like really basic, really accessible.
Yeah.
I have like an oscillator, and then I'd have an envelope, and I have a melody and a trigger, and going into that, and it's like, hey, there's a melody. For myself, I like not synchronizing anything. So I generally like to separate let's say my melodic patterns from the amplitude patterns, right? So I would sometimes not use the same gate and CV of the same sequencer channel. I'm a huge fan of just all kinds of utilities. I think that utilities are the little magic dust of a modular system, right? Just attenuating something, slightly inverting something, using, VCAs to modulate a modulator. So I always encourage people to look at the boring stuff, the utilities, because it's easy to get all the fancy stuff, your fancy oscillator, your super fancy filter and everything. But then, once you get that, it's like, oh, it's actually really hard to put something together because you don't have the glue, right? You don't have the utilities to shape and control anything. So I love switches, logic, and like sample and hold, stuff like that. Utilities.
Yeah, I hear you. No, decoupling the triggers on a sequencer is like huge. I love that. It's so much fun. Really, really, you can explore some fun patterns and like that. And I know it's been said before, but the VCA thing is is real. Like there's a lot to do with them for sure. Um, I totally agree with you there for sure. Utilities for the win. Absolutely. Awesome. Yeah, totally. Uh, I think one thing I think when you talked about the Metropolis, that did make me think about one of those modules is this kind of instant, like, wow, that's creative. That's super cool. I could, I had the SQ1, which is sort of similar in a sense of like, you don't have to do much and you can start to kind of build a pattern. And that's definitely one I used to let the kids always play with because they can just, start coming up with crazy little patterns and cool little rhythms. And it's just a kid messing around with it. And boom, you were getting something out of it. So definitely those kind of sequencers are really fun and kind of interesting. But yeah, decouple it. You're right. Like just don't use the trigger. Use a different trigger from somewhere else. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Sonia, you said you don't have a big system, so the ones you have must be pretty fun to patch up.
Yeah, well, modular synth is expensive. And as I previously mentioned, I'm unemployed. I'm not very like proficient in the technical stuff, I'll be frank, but I guess like in terms of like a tip or a technique that I like to use, even though I do have a small system, is to like work with restriction and limitation. I find a lot of fun and like force creativity out of that. Like I'll be like, only for this week, I'm only going to use like these two modules, and I'll like try to make the most out of the sound, and it forces me to like get to know the pieces a little bit better. Like I bought a new module recently from Recovery Effects. It's called Bad Comrade. It's really cute. And because I like obviously didn't read the manual, I was like, I'm just gonna play with it and only it and like this and like whatever clouds or rings or whatever, and just like play with it for as long as I can until I finally understand what it does. And I like wouldn't let myself move past it until I was like, I know what it does. I really like working with restriction. I mean, I like to do that with my other instruments as well. Like I'll be like, oh, this week I'm only gonna like play the drum, or I'm only gonna play like the low notes or something. Like random rules make me, I guess, push creativity a little bit more. Like Heidi and I have a friend named Case, and even she was saying that before she had a big kit, she really enjoyed the limitations that having a smaller setup gave her, because like you it just makes you spend a lot more time with what you have. And I think that's partly why I'm not too interested in getting like a ton of modules, because I like what I have and I want to use it intimately. And also, like, it costs so much money. I'm really not trying to not spend that much time with them.
No, word up. I hear you there.
I think that's good advice. Like in general, like even I like to put modules into a small case and then really just get into patching those specific modules too. I think that's a good tip too when you're starting out also, and also just to get to know your module, as opposed to, I feel like sometimes when I patch like on the bigger case, it's like a broader brush strokes, at first, and then I go back, and say, oh no. But when I work with the smaller case, you can really kind of dig in and modulate the hell out of it.
Yeah, no, totally. You mentioned random rules, and you mentioned modular hell out of it, and utilities came up. I feel like we should talk a little bit about random and sources for. I think someone just mentioned something about, ironically, not someone just said something about random in the live chat.
Can I say one more thing about
Yeah,
limitations?
keep going.
Christoph, talk about your limiting yourself with like specific number
Yeah,
of keys.
that's right. Yeah, here's a
That is a
person.
limitation.
Yeah, he put it on himself.
Yeah, in the same vein that a lot of people are talking about here, I limited myself to 104.3U, and just put a little case together. And honestly, I've been playing with that case. Rarely ever use the other case that I have, which is another 104.3U. But for the last year, I've just 90% of my stuff that I played was with the 104.3U. But the one thing that I also did is I said I only use, I don't know, maybe 30 patch cables or 20 patch cables. I forgot the exact number. And I had them in a box, and I took that case and I had the box with me. And every once in a while I would run out of patch cables. And that forced me then to try something else. That was just another constraint that it's a silly constraint, because I had 3 more boxes of Luigi patch cables sitting right there. But it kind of forced me to do some really creative stuff with the patch cables and in patching those modules. Don't do that anymore. So
That's a great idea, just to use whatever patch cables is in that box. And when you run out of it, you gotta repatch or something. That's
it
great.
Wasn't counted
I'm gonna steal that. And
it wasn't pre-counted. Like, I didn't say it's 15 or 20. I just had the cables in the box, and all of a sudden I grabbed and there was no more there. And then I'm like, okay, so I can't do anything right now. And then I kind of worked around it. I found another way to do that got that patch even further. And that I thought was really interesting.
That would be great for a live performance, is that you just have to keep jiggling the existing patch cables around your system and that's not pull another new cable. Yeah,
that's risky, but that's what fun is.
Totally. Yeah.
It's cool.
Super risky.
I mean, Heidi, you know about limitations too. Like, you did that 3 module challenge, which was fun. It was fun for me because I usually only use 2. I was like, oh, okay.
You're being excessive now.
Yeah, exactly.
I was like, this is too much. I don't know if I can
slow it down.
I was like, hold up, there's 3 that I can.
Yeah.
No, 3 module challenges are awesome. We've done a couple at CMSS too, like back in the heyday, back in the day, and they're super fun, and I love whenever they pop up, and it's definitely a good challenge. And I do remember when I only had 3 modules, and I was doing 3 module challenges every day. But yeah, that's kind of goes into a kind of another tip about self-patching modules. And obviously, like, there's some modules that are easier to self-patch than others. I almost consider what I'm gonna get based on how many ins and outs it has. If it has more ins and outs than knobs, then I'm pretty much gonna get it. I mean, that makes me think, okay, cool, I can self-patch the heck out of it, which will make that module go all the more further out. I think someone mentioned ADAC. I think Heidi mentioned ADAC. Like, I mean, how many ins and outs that every module I have? It's like it's another 10 HP of ins and outs. It's pretty fun stuff. But I was going to say something about noise in random because I think that's something that I was really interested when I first got into modular was the whole random stuff. There were so many random generators. I'd never heard that before in other music before. That was just news to me. So, and I remember like sitting there trying to think what I was going to get, and someone just said, "Just use noise, man. Just use some noise." That's just random. A sample hold and noise. There you go. Um, so anybody else having fun with like random modules or anything random that's they kind of dig? No, am I the only one who's digging random?
Yeah, I'm still using a woggle bug, so that's about the extent of my random in my case.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you modulate the woggle bug?
Yeah, I have like so I use the 4MS quad pingable LFO a lot, and I'll feed that into the woggle bug for like, you know, sort of like polyrhythmic modulation, but that's pretty much it. Like I like to pair those two up. And then for triggers, like I saw in the comments a few people have mentioned branches, so I love branches. I'll feed triggers out of the woggle bug into branches to get kind of like sort of randomized drum patterns and stuff like that. But that's pretty much it.
That's cool. That's cool. Christoph, do you use any random modules or do you just banging at it randomly? Oh, I think you're muted.
Sorry, muted. Noise, all kinds of noisy things, like a radio. Put a radio into a sample and hold and start tuning in between. I mean, at some point it's noise, but then when you get like a station and then it kind of gives it something else.
Whoa.
That for pitch CV is pretty cool. I like chaotic modules, like the Sloth, nonlinear circuits. All their stuff is just fantastic.
Yeah.
Benjamin is another one of those that I'm looking at that I've heard about. I don't have one, but people keep telling me about it.
They keep
I know
talking.
John has been telling me to purchase it.
Yeah.
My friend Jono.
John won't
Yeah.
stop talking about it.
Yeah.
He's talked to me about it too. I guess he's been talking to everyone about it.
Yeah, exactly.
You have one, Heidi, you said, right?
I do have one, and I highly recommend it. And you know, at the end of the day, it's a pretty simple modules, right? 2 oscillators, a filter, and then there's this. I guess it's kind of like a Turing machine, like, right? You can set between fully random, and then you can lock it into a repeating pattern. So yeah, it's a really elegant. I find it a really elegant thing, and I don't have a lot of random modules per se, but but again, because I like patching asynchronous things together, have asynchronous things modulating each other, then that generates a bit of randomness, I find, for me. I really like, I mean, I got into whole modular because I was intrigued by the idea of just patching things, you know, solving problems, putting puzzles together with patching. And so instead of having a lot of modules that just do random or noise, I like to just have everything going at different rates and then have them just intersect at different times.
Like clocks at different.
Yeah, different clocks.
Yeah.
Yeah. I watch, I'm sure you all know Doug Linner with his Surge system. And he had a really simple video showing running a sequencer pitch CV into a sample and hold, but then using a different clock to sample and hold that sequence. So you've got a pattern going, but then you can use a clock at a different rate to then pick notes out of that sequence at different times. I thought that was just such a simple but elegant way of introducing like a bit of variation with a repeating pattern. Things like that. Those are the kinds of things that I really like.
No, that's cool.
I'll concur. Yeah, I like that too.
So does that pendulum so does it have its own clock inside of it, or do you have to feed it the clock? for that Turing part to work?
It's the random the wrangler, which is the random thing. It's clocked by the second oscillator,
Oh, okay.
and both oscillators have full, very slow LFO to like that, really high frequency. So you
Okay.
can clock it really slow, so it's actually a stepped sequence, but you can also clock it at audio rate, so you can get it to sound very noisy as well.
Do you use the oscillators in the pendulum, or do you use it more for as a modulation source?
A bit of both, yeah. It really depends. The filter on it also pings really nicely, so you can actually turn the resonance all the way up on the filter. So it's got a low pass filter, and then set the oscillator to LFO rate, and then it'll kind of ping the filter. And it does really nice things. So yeah, highly recommend. Everybody should get a pendulum. We'll have a pendulum party.
Yeah. Well, maybe at one
Damn
point.
it.
Yeah. Jono keeps talking us into it.
I know.
Yeah.
I'll have to
Shout out.
text.
Yeah, I have to text him. Yeah. It's Jono's birthday tomorrow, so happy early birthday to Jono. By the way, shout out to Jono.
Happy
For
birthday, Jana.
Happy birthday, John.
Happy birthday, Jono.
It was like the most like subdued happy birthday, Jono.
David, can you maybe whip up a modular patch back, like a patch back there, like a happy birthday patch?
I did a happy birthday patch for Alex Anderson once, and I got like 2 likes on it. So I guess I wasn't very good on this. I guess I wasn't a great patch. But you know what?
Challenge accepted.
I liked it. I thought it was cool. So yeah.
That's all that
It's like
matters.
it's like Sonia says, like make the music you want to make. And
like be a freak. Do whatever you want. You know what I mean? Like everybody's like, when people gonna like it? It doesn't matter. Do you like it? Like, who cares? I mean, I don't know. I said this before in a recent thing I talked about. Like, I try not to get too attached to like negative comments because you're always gonna get them, even if you're like top dog. But I also try to not get attached to negative or positive comments either, because I don't want to make things just for approval. Like, I don't want to get so like diluted from people being like, oh my god, you're amazing, that I stop making things just for like because I want to.
Yeah. Not here.
That's really good.
No, it's cool. Yeah. On that note, yeah. Let's wrap up and let Tsk Tsk take do another set. Apologies for the sound check on the first one. So hopefully this won't come up like they like it. But let's end this session with everybody with a couple things. One, tell us a little bit what you're up to next and where we can find you, and then your like last piece of advice for people getting into music, into making noise. Who would like to go first? Raise your hand. I want to call on you then. Fine. Scott, I'm calling on you.
I knew it.
Yeah.
So I'm all over Instagram. That's like my primary sort of social network or whatever. So go there if you want to find any of my stuff. And what am I working on now? I've got a like sort of a Norns Raspberry Pi based kind of clone thing that I'm putting together. It's not a Norns. It's like my own design. It's actually kind of neat. Yeah. So it's sending it sends 4 channels of CV out, 4 channels of CV in through like an Ethernet port. So then you use something like a Dopefer multi-core on the synth end to get that CV into the synth. So it's kind of cool. But I'm going to be posting about that in like the next couple of days, so you guys can check it out. And then what was the last thing? Piece of advice.
Yeah.
Piece of advice. Yeah, it's been mentioned, but don't go out and buy a bunch of stuff, right? Like, I mean, there's so much you can get out of so little, I think, in modular that really just like kind of getting the core basics and like fully understanding them will take you like infinitely further than getting a room full of gear. And I mean, like someone like Monoscene is like totally, testament to that, right? Like just in what we've seen you do, right? With just a few modules or a few patch cables. So that would be my advice.
Good one. Like it. Awesome. Who wants to go next?
I'm sure I will. You can find me on Instagram, I guess, Travarsi Official, and my website's the same. And I'm working on something for you guys for the Colorado show, which is something I'm doing something different. Yeah, nice.
I'm so excited about that.
Nice.
That's super nice. Yeah, so I'm gonna share something with you, with everybody, real quick that I've been working on. April Skies. That's the next. That's what Travarsi's talking about. It's our next modular space synth space music show. This is me announcing all the people who are going to play. It's going to be ridiculously good. Kevin Ricks to send me his video already, so I am already excited. But yeah, April Skies, that's going to be our next event, 4/25. That's the fourth Sunday of the month, streaming here on our YouTube. So please subscribe, check that out. There'll be more information about that as we go. But yeah, Travarsi's working on that. I'm super excited because you're going to do something different. And thank you so much. I'm excited for that.
Thanks for having me. And then I guess my advice would just be like, just focus on what you like and stay in your own lane. You know, just that's what I try to do as well. Like what Sonia was saying before, like don't be worried about what everyone else is doing. Like take those things as inspiration and then just focus on yourself. And, yeah, and your music and that you like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dig it. For sure. Thank you. Heidi, would you like to go?
Sure. Sorry, what was the first question again?
Yeah.
Oh, what's up? What's coming up?
What are you up to next? And where can we find you?
Right. You can't because I have no social media at the moment. I have a Bandcamp page, so if I make music and I'll be posted there. It's just bachelor.bandcamp.com. Mentioned before, I have an acoustic project in Toronto that's coming up. It's like a documentary fusion ensemble sort of documentary performance thing that I'm really excited about. Modular wise, I'm just gonna keep plugging away. I'm also learning the Norns at work for some university research stuff. I might need to pick your brain later, Scott.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about that. Yeah, I'm trying to learn a little bit of more like coding and programming and like designing my own stuff.
Cool.
So, yeah.
Yeah, keep in touch with Scott. He's over there doing weird Norn stuff. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I've looked at the Norn shield a couple times. Looks cool. Sorry, Travarsi, there's menus.
I know I'm kind of forced to learn it because I'm like, oh my god, I'm at menus and coding, and I'm really not into it. But then it's like, oh, there's actually a lot of potential to design things, to prototype things. That's what we're using right now at the lab, just to just put some stuff on it to prototype interfaces and things like that.
Yeah, that's cool. Super cool. Well, we'll keep a look at that, and we'll definitely. I think we might have played your music before on Bandcamp Friday, our listening show. So we'll, as you come up with more stuff, we'll probably play something referencing this show for sure. So check out your music. Your tones sound so good. Sonia, you always got something going. What's going on with you? What's the latest?
I forgot the question.
You guys are great. It's awesome. I was asking what are some ways we can keep following you and keep in touch with you, and what you got coming up on the horizon, and then what's a bit of advice? Not that you haven't shared so much advice already, so.
Yeah, I'm on Instagram. It's SONJA_online. And I also have like a website, but all my links and stuff are the link in my bio. Instagram's kind of like the main spot. I recently started a newsletter, so you can subscribe to that too. I talk about like alien stuff and like if the internet's like reality, a lot of like weird stuff that's not really music related. So it's just another like expansion of stuff I like to do. What am I working on right now? Right now, I'm working on using non-instrument stuff as a way of making music. So I just bought a bunch of new animal bones that I'm trying to figure out how to like respectfully use as sound makers. So I'm experimenting with that. I'm not planning to release any more music this year of like experimental stuff. So right now I'm in like a big playing set sense of mind, just a lot of like, what can I use? Let's go outside. I'm gonna buy a field recorder soon because I can't keep using my phone all the time. So I've decided to upgrade and invest. So that's what I'll be doing over the summer is probably like, I don't know, going into the forest and like lying down for a bit. A lot of focus on that and then blogging about it. As I mentioned, I have a lot of time. So and my advice to people is to not let the elitism of the music industry get to you. You don't need the fanciest or most expensive things to make the music that's in your heart. You don't need Ableton for $900. You don't need to use all that stuff. You can use your phone and Audacity and still make something fantastic. And you don't need to buy like a $10,000 synthesizer when $100 one is all you can afford. Don't run yourself into debt just because you think you need that to compete. It's what's inside. Like tons of people have the most expensive stuff and don't know how to use it. So just enjoy it and don't let people talk down to you either. A lot of people are so snobby about stuff and it's always like serious old like middle-aged men with like nothing going on except synth, and it's like honestly control yourself, you know what I mean? Like there's more to life than just your synthesizer. Go out and enjoy that too.
Right on, right on. Thank you so much. Yeah, for sure. Well, I love it, and thanks for coming. I do miss your little microphone, but I'm so glad you're here.
Oh yeah. I should wait, I have one here. It's my little mic.
There it is. There it is. Yeah. See, I was trying to do your thing, but I just.
No, get one of these. It's the best. I mean,
No.
it actually works not well, obviously, but like it's functioning. It's so cute. I love
Yeah.
it so much.
It's just as good as mine, and mine's. No, I love it. I love that little mic. It's so cool. It's awesome.
Yeah,
Awesome.
thank you so much for having me. This is a lot of fun.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. Thanks for rolling with us. Christoph, before we go, anything you want to say before we switch over to Tisdisk for the last performance?
Just thank you to everybody here. Heidi, Sonia, Travarsi, Scott. That was really a cool chat. It's good to meet you. We will put links to Bandcamp and all that in the show description here once we're done. So all your social media or whatever, your Bandcamp pages will show up here so people can check you out. Thank you again.
All right, cool. Appreciate it. All right. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming. We're going to end the show with last performance from Tsk Tsk. Don't forget that we have next week's the Bandcamp listening party for modular synth artists, and then in April we have the April Skies thing, so definitely subscribe to that, and don't forget to go sign up for Freak Boutique at our website too. That's coming up, so do that, and then buy some stickers, please. Appreciate it. All right, cool. So we're gonna go over to Tsk Tsk. Thank you everybody for joining us today. Have a really awesome Sunday. So ending it out with Tsk Tsk.